Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, babies in their diapers, welcome to the Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy!
That's me, Tiberius!
Well, welcome to the Tiberius Show today, and I'm your host, Tiberius Boy. And as always, we are looking at various jobs and how they affect the world around us. Today's is going to be very interesting. We're going to talk to a game show host. Do you have any idea what a game show host does? Well, I pretty much think I do, but let's find out. Well, let me introduce our next guest, the one, the only, the amazing Mike Montague. Mike is the owner of... Hello there. And Mike is the owner of Playful Humans and teaches adults how to play.
Hey, Tiberius, that is an intro, man. That's how I like to start. Some good music, a little dancing, and power intro. I love it.
Thank you. And thank you again for being on the show.
Hey, I am super happy to be here. I love talking with young people. I love playing. I get to turn pro and do this for a living and get paid to do this with other people.
Nice.
I host 2 podcasts, a whole bunch of game shows, do public speaking in front of other people, sometimes thousands of people at a time. And so I never turn down a chance to be on a microphone.
Okay. Nice. Okay, so yours is a game show host. You have run shows for Google, Subway, and even Meta. Well, can you tell me more about that?
Yes. During the pandemic, I was looking for something fun to do because I wanted to, get out of the house, do something, go see some people, and it wasn't possible. So I auditioned to be a game show host for a company out of California called Grin Events, and they work with a lot of the big California companies. So that's where Facebook, Meta, Qualcomm, a whole bunch of the California large tech companies, we hosted virtual game shows for their teams around the world. And I got to be the game show host, and there's producers and technical people on the line that run the games and throw up the questions and everything. And I just get to play around and have fun. And it was their team building events. We did a lot of holiday parties at the end of 2020, and then team building and a chance for them to mix it up when they have distributed workforces all around the world and stuff. And then they opened a game show battle rooms here in Kansas City, which is sort of like an escape room model where they have this black box theater, and I get to go in and host a game show for people that come in Kansas City, whether it's a family or a big company or bachelorette party for people that are getting married. They come into the game show battle rooms, and then for an hour I host the game show. I wear a suit and get my microphone, and we have lights and sound and the big Plinko boards or the big wheels that you get to spin and solve puzzles, and we play all the games there live in the battle rooms, and it has been super fun. And I got both of those from just auditioning, putting myself out there and seeing what happens.
Okay. So when did you know that you wanted to be a game show host?
Ooh, that's a great question, because I don't think it was game show host for me when I was your age. When I was your age, I liked radio and radio shows, and I would record with my grandma's tape recorder and stuff, different radio shows, and podcasting wasn't a thing. It hadn't been invented yet. Ooh. So I would just do it for fun and for my family, and I dreamed about being on the radio. And then in my 20s, I got to do that. I set it up so that I auditioned, and I went on a sort of reality show competition to be the last DJ on this radio station. Wow. And I got bad news, Tiberius. I got second. But the person who got third place quit their job at another radio station to be in this contest. So I called up that radio station and I said, hey, I heard your prize guy just quit because he was in this contest with me. How would you like a new prize guy? And so I got to be the prize guy and sort of host. That's where I started kind of doing games. I hosted singing competitions, and I hosted different games for people to win prizes around Kansas City. And I was the prize guy on what was 105.1 Jack FM and Mix 93.3, the top 40 radio station here in Kansas City. And then that's got me into podcasting, and then they got me into webinars and public speaking, and then came around to game shows as a way to entertain people. I did some trivia nights in bars and clubs, and I did some DJing where I got to open for famous artists, big touring professionals and stuff, and got on really big stages, and just sort of landed in the game shows as the most interesting part of that. It's really easy for me to do. It's super fun. I get to have a blast and make money at it.
Nice. So, when did you know that the idea of being a game show host to an actual business?
Ooh, I think it really was during the pandemic for me in 2020. So I had always done fun things, like I mentioned, and they had all sort of paid the bills in some way or another. Public speaking and sales training makes the most amount of money for me. So corporations will pay big amounts for me to come in and talk to their sales teams, or to be an entertainer or keynote speaker on their conferences and stuff. And then I found these game show companies, and I was like, wow, I think I could piece together a bunch of different things. So if you notice, I've mentioned I have a lot of different jobs. That's because one of them, the sales training, pays the most amount of my bills, but all the other ones I get to do for fun, and I kind of piece things together. So sometimes I do it for free. Sometimes I make $100 an hour. Sometimes I make $1,000 an hour. It kind of just depends on how big the audience is and what the opportunity is. And I just like doing it. So I keep doing it, and I wish I would get more of the $1,000 an hour gigs.
Okay.
So sound like fun.
Well, what kind of games do you play?
Oh, all the classic ones. So we got to be careful with some royalties, but I would say we play games like Family Feud, Wheel of Fortune, Price is Right. Sometimes we do Jeopardy trivia, but that's kind of hard because you have to read the audience. You have to know what kind of trivia questions they can answer. So I don't want to ask you questions about the 1980s, but I don't want to ask your dad deep questions about Pokemon and stuff, right? We wouldn't match up. So questions can be really hard on trivia nights and things. But
although my dad and Pokemon do match.
Oh, there you go.
He does love a lot of Pokemon.
Do you know how you fit 3 Bulbasaurs and 2 Charizards onto a bus?
How?
You Pokemon. Okay, that was a sidetrack. So the games we play, the ones I really like are the minute to win it challenges, where you do like cup stacking or flipping, pencils or bouncing ping pong balls. Those, regardless of age, people really get into, and it gets crazy because props start flying everywhere, and people get frantic with 60 seconds on the clock. So I think that one is one of the most fun. The easiest one is Family Feud. Family Feud
that's one of the easiest ones.
Everybody knows how to play, and as long as the questions are things you can guess at, then it usually works out pretty well.
And they don't even have to be in the same family.
Right, and they don't have to know the right answer, because it's not necessarily like a trivia question where you have to know when the War of 1812 is. You just have to say, what do I think people's favorite animal is, or something. We can take a bunch of guesses at it, and that makes it more fun.
Now, how do you get adults to play games?
It's harder than you would think. So you got to be very sneaky in the way that you set it up. And I like to start slow. So we'll try a really easy game like Family Feud first, and we'll work up to something that's harder, like the minute to win it challenges. So when you start with a really easy game, everybody can kind of be boring and reserved, and they'll just say, grumpily, I think, whatever, strawberry is my favorite ice cream flavor. And you start with an easy one that everybody can kind of guess. And then we get more and more adventurous. So as we go along, I'll try to get them more excited, and I'll ask them to cheer, or they'll start arguing with points. Usually adults like to challenge the rules and stuff. And sometimes kids do too. But, they'll argue, oh, that one should have been on there. And then once I see that they're getting emotionally excited, that's when I know that I got them hooked. And so we can move on to a different game, or we can up the challenges and make them more difficult.
Yeah. So, kind of tell me, how does it work? Like, do you have your own set and TV cameras, or do you have to go to Google headquarters to do a show?
Ooh, I do all of the above. So I can spin my camera so you don't have to here, but I have a big wheel over here and props. And you can see I have lots of toys and different games behind me. And I have dice and I have Family Feud cards and all kinds of things set up in front of me here. Even cash prizes. You can win up to $5 million on our discussion here today.
Wow.
But,
okay.
So I do that here. We can do it remotely, and we kind of just use PowerPoint and Zoom, and we get people on and run a show that way. And I have sound effects on my computer and stuff that I have buttons that I can push to play sounds. Then we do go to the game show battle rooms and theaters, and it's a whole setup, and it has cameras and stuff, and people come to me to do it, and that is a lot easier because we can have bigger props. Like I can have gigantic games that people can play and huge
like
wheels
giant Twister.
Yeah. And then I have small versions of it too. So things that I can take in a car and go set up at a place. So if I go to a company like Meta or Google, I can bring sort of small versions of the games that people can take with them. So usually playing cards and other things make easy games. And there's some stuff that travels, but it's all custom depending on what the event is, where it's going to be, how many people are going to be there. Like Family Feud, you can only really have a certain number of people at one time play. You can't have 20 people play. But if we're doing Minute to Win It and there are 20 people playing, I can have 20 different versions of the cups they're trying to stack. We just buy more. I have a Lego game too, where if a company has enough money, we can buy a Lego kit for every person in the room. So you can do that with 1,000 people building Lego all at the same time. It's really fun, but it's also really expensive
and hard to keep track
of. It's hard for you and I to do virtually, right? So it all depends. Like you would have to have the same Lego pieces that I do if we were gonna
which
play
you have way too many, I'm guessing.
You've noticed behind me, just the sign here is over 10,000 Lego pieces there, and the Playful Human sign. That one took a while. So I think it's all fun. The one cool thing we haven't talked about is I can also make up the questions. So when a company hires me, or I wanted to do questions about you, I could write questions about things that you like. And so just guessing on your reaction, I can make up Pokemon questions. I can make up, radio broadcast questions, TV questions. I can do things based on your favorite show. And for companies, I can do it based on their products or their employees. And so when we customize the game show to them, that's when it gets really fun. And that's when we get people hooked and excited about it, because they're like, wait, that's a question about me. I better know that one. Right.
Yeah. Now, I've been thinking about a game show host for a living, just like Anderson Cooper from The Mole, but then he became a news reporter. So how did you get noticed so someone will pay you to be a game show host?
So, what's really funny is you mentioned Anderson Cooper. He was on Channel 1. This is a TV show that's broadcast into school systems when he was a teenager. So he was like a teenager, young teens, and that's when I kind of saw him first. And I saw him grow up to be a real newscaster and then do other fun things like game shows and reality shows. I always thought game shows were a cool job. If you think about Steve Harvey's job on Family Feud or even hosting Jeopardy or things that are more complicated, they're pretty easy jobs. You kind of just show up and you play with people. So as long as you can improvise and you can have fun, it's not a lot of hard work. You get paid money to just play games, laugh with people, tell jokes, smile, and introduce people. So I think the cool thing about it for me is that it's a repeatable thing. The game shows have been around for 50 years. So similar like being on the radio, when I played songs and music, the music changes every year. New songs come out every year, but the job is pretty much the same. So it can get a little boring and repetitive, but if you're creative, you can play with the callers, you can play with the contestants, and you can find a way to keep it fun and fresh by getting new questions, new music, new games to
Yeah.
play, and it's really fun. Last thing I want to tell you, Tiberius, is I think at your age, a lot of people think that you either have to be a starving artist and do it for free when you're young and you're like, okay, I just like playing games. I'm just going to do it for me and it's going to be a hobby. I like building Lego. I don't sell Lego or anything. For me, that's just a fun thing that I do for me.
Okay.
Then other people think you have to become super famous. So I have to be Anderson Cooper, or I have to be Mr. Beast, and I have to make millions of dollars doing, huge game shows for $1 million prizes and stuff. But a lot of people don't realize that there's a job that I have that's in the middle. And so I call it kind of like a middle class where
So you don't have to go starving artist. You don't have to go millions of dollars. You can just go mid.
I just make as much as my neighbors. I live in the suburb. I have a nice house. I do my thing, and sometimes not being famous has its benefits too. I can still, go to the grocery store and go out in public and not be swarmed with people. I don't have paparazzi outside my door, but I get to do the same job as Mr.
That
Beast.
you love,
I just don't have all the headaches of being famous, right?
Yeah. Now, my dad says that you mix sales trainings with game shows. Well, can you explain that?
So sales training is another part of the aspects that I do. I wrote a book on LinkedIn. It was called LinkedIn the Sandler Way, and this is for adults with jobs trying to find other people that will buy from them. And that got me a job as a keynote speaker, and I travel around and talk to different companies. And I do this virtually as well, helping their sales teams find people, find buyers, helping them have better conversations with buyers, helping them negotiate big deals that might be millions of dollars. They might be tens and thousands of dollars too, and they just do it a whole lot more. But this job with a company called Sandler is really fun. My dad worked there. My sister worked there. My dad's been doing it for almost 30 years now.
Wow.
And that's how I got into it. And this company trains people all around the world. So they've trained over 1 million salespeople. And they work for big companies too. So I've gotten to train like Thermo Fisher Scientific, or I did Uber for Sandler, where Uber was selling to businesses for Uber Eats. They got to get the businesses to sign up for Uber Eats so that they can deliver their food. And I helped the teams that go approach all those businesses to sign up for Uber Eats. And it's a really fun job. Sometimes it can be a little serious. And you probably know from school, when there's a boring lecture and stuff, you don't really remember much. It's not very exciting. So the more I can work games and game shows into the sales training, then I catch people's attention. They remember a lot more, and they have a lot more fun, and then they invite me back to do it again.
Okay. So what's the best part about playing video games with adults?
Ooh, I think video games for adults is fun because it kind of levels the playing field a little bit. And when we play games online, you can do that distributed. It allows people to have conversations and to relax a little bit. And to me, it just distracts the mind enough that you can kind of let go of all of the stress. Yeah. So for you might not be carrying around the weight of the world, but when you're an adult and you have kids to worry about and you got to pay for the house and all the food and there's all kinds of pressure, people just get in their own heads. They don't have as much fun. When you play any type of game, or you play a video game or a board game, it's something to distract your hands and your mind a little bit. Your body can calm down, your brain calms down, and then you can have really interesting discussions because you can relax, and then you can be more creative. You can connect better with people. And I find that people don't get super stiff. I'm sure you've had guests on this show because you've done enough episodes where they're thinking about it. They're in their head all the time. They're overthinking it. They looked at all the questions ahead of time, and then they're just robots. And you're like, no, I need to distract you. I need you to play a game so you don't think about where your hands are, and you can relax and just be yourself.
Yeah. Well, now, here seems like a great time to take a quick commercial break. Let's hear a word from our sponsors.
tiberiusshow.com.
You can call him at 407-801-2667.
Wait, you are not Chuck.
My dad can help when people get hurt. He loves to help people.
If you are ever injured at work or in a car accident, you should call my friend Chuck.
You can call him at 407-801-2667.
That website again is cwsmith.com. law.com.
Offices, Orlando.
Does it actually have that much W's?
And we are back here talking with my Montague. Mike helps adults learn how to play and avoid burnout. So, Mike, it says here that you help people avoid burnout. Can you explain what is exactly burnout?
I think it's just people getting bored and they're running out of ideas on how to make their life or their career more interesting. And so they feel like they've maybe gotten it as high as they can get. And so it's interesting, and you'll find out as you grow older that when there's goals, when you're trying to finish grade school or finish high school or get a job or buy a house, there's always these sort of goals on your list. And so it's interesting. You got something you're moving towards all the time. And then you get to a point around my age where there's not a whole lot of goals left. I got a house, I'm married, I got the car, I got everything that I kind of want. Then what? And you can kind of be stuck on repeat for like 20 years and until I'm working towards retirement. And of course, I'm trying to make more money and have more fun all the time. But sometimes that can be stressful when it's just more and more and more. You start thinking, well, maybe I need quality instead of more. Maybe I need to slow down and I need to make better choices about what I'm trying to do with my life. So I think people get frustrated, they get stressed out, and they feel stuck and they don't know how to get out of that box.
Wow. Well, I'm a kid and I can see getting burnout from going to school. Well, can you help a kid avoid burnout?
I can, sure. I think everybody can avoid burnout if you work in these 5 things. So 5 is a lot, but you need to play every single day. You need to perform every single day. That's doing your work, do your homework, do the stuff that matters. You need to pause every single day. So that's number 3, is just take some break, rest, recover. That could be sleep or whatever. Ponder is number 4. You need to take time to think about what you're doing. And the other one is practice. So number 5 is practice. When you think about getting better at the stuff that you do, you need to take time to learn. You need to take time to do stuff in a safe space where you can fail. And if you do those 5 things in every sort of medium, you know, whether it's a day, a week, or month, you got to find a balance between those 5 things. If you do that, you'll give yourself time to recover. You'll make progress. You'll give yourself time to move the ball forward and do things that you want to do. But try to work all 5 of those things into every day.
Okay, so now you have a great personality. And my dad said that you used to be a radio DJ. Do you have a lot of training to be able just to talk to anyone?
Yes, a lot of sales training happens that way too, of being able to ask anybody a question. Questions are a secret weapon. You've been using them a lot, and you know this from your job here, that if you have a really great question, it takes the pressure off of you and the other person gets to talk. So when the other person's talking, they feel good about themselves. They're sharing their ideas and information, and you're smiling and nodding along, and you can think about what the next question is. So questioning is a superpower, but talking is also a superpower. So when I'm up on stage doing a keynote speech for 1,000 people, or I'm a DJ and I'm supposed to be on the microphone and talking, there are some tricks to it. And the more you practice, you learn to use your voice so you don't blow it out. I hosted 2 game shows last night, did 3 podcasts today, and I still sound good and strong in my voice because I'm using my chest, I'm breathing, I'm drinking lots of water, and I don't do things to ruin my voice like scream and stuff. So you learn how to do that, and then you learn how to talk without stopping. And a pro tip is to repeat the question and repeat your main point again at the end if you got to fill time. Otherwise, you just keep going and kind of turn off my brain. Be fully present in the moment. Watch what the other person's doing. React to them. And really settle into just being in the moment. Not being distracted. Not worrying about how I look or what other people are thinking and judging.
So what's the hardest part about doing your work?
Ooh, I think the hardest part is just that. It's staying in the present moment, and it's being enough of myself and calm enough that I can allow other people to have fun. Like, nobody wants a game show host that's stressed out, that's freaking out. They're worried about technical glitches, or the song didn't play, or the contestant did something weird. If I'm freaked out, everybody else is going to be freaked out. So I really try to be like the thermostat for the room that controls the temperature. I want to set the thermostat on fun and play. If I'm over here on stressed and it's making it too hot in the room for everybody else, they're not going to have fun. So I think the hardest part for me is reminding me, no matter what is going on in my life or that day or how tired I am or how many of these I've already done, is to bring that playful energy to every situation.
Well, my dad said you have a podcast as well, and it's popular. Congratulations. Wait a second. He says you have over 3 million downloads? Wow, I just got to 10,000 a month. Please, oh please, tell me how you get over 3 million downloads.
Sure, there's a couple of tricks. Number one is if 10,000 downloads a month, you're on a really great start. All you have to do is keep doing it. If you keep doing that, you add enough months to it, you'll get to 3 million downloads for sure. Pretty quick, actually. That's only a few years there. Now, the other trick is to keep it fun for you, because when you get burnt out, you stop making episodes. So the number one mistake people make in their podcasts or their YouTube shows and things is they don't make one. They don't hit record enough. They don't hit publish enough. And so they aren't doing this. Yes, take notes here. So if you keep doing it, you'll learn, you'll get better, you'll find better guests, you'll get more downloads. And when you get more downloads, it sort of all piles on. Then bigger guests come your way and people start reaching out to me. Yeah. So I have guests asking to be on my show for the next 3 months. I don't have to worry about who the next person is. I don't have to worry about whether I'm going to publish or I have to rush or I have to take a bad guest because I just have to fill a hole in the schedule. Yeah. Once you get going and you keep this momentum going, it really builds on itself. And then my last trick for you, Tiberius, this is the really good one, is I tell everybody, and salespeople too, to fish with nets, not with poles. If you have to go and find every individual guest, if you have to find every individual listener one by one, it's going to take you a lot of work to get 50,000 listeners a month, right? That's 50,000 items you have to do. But if you can go on other people's podcasts where they have huge followings, you can get a whole bunch of new listeners for your show all at once. Like you have 10,000 people listening to this one. If they all subscribe to the Playful Humans podcast, or my How to Succeed podcast is the one for salespeople and sales leaders that has 3 million downloads, then I'm getting hundreds of people all at once subscribing. So fish with nets so you can get a whole bunch of fish all at once.
That is true.
Not with individual posts.
Okay, so can I use your skills to increase my numbers on YouTube as well?
Yes. Here you go. Number one, you're already doing a lot of the stuff. Keep it moving, keep it fast, keep it fun, deliver value from the start and all the way through the episode. You're doing that. Number two is get out there yourself. So the more you put yourself out there, be a guest on other people's shows, learn fun things, do as much stuff as you can, even for free. I love doing charity events and things because I get to give back, donate my time, and I get to get in front of new people that might be interested in my show. So I think it's all about just sharing as much as you can, and then breaking this content in. When you do a long interview like this, it can become a whole bunch of short videos, and it can become a blog post on your website, and you repurpose that same thing over and over again. So one interview becomes a blog post, it becomes social medias. You can break it into 21 different TikTok videos that are 1 minute or less, and you only have to do one interview, but then you can use that in hundreds of places.
Yeah. Well, my dad says that you like Legos. Well, do you find some way to play with Legos at your work?
Absolutely, and I'm super excited to become a Lego Serious Play certified instructor this summer. So I'm doing a class with Lego themselves to become an official Lego teacher. And there's lots of cool tricks. So if you think, here's a pop quiz for you, Tiberius. I want you to guess. If I had 6 of the regular, just like 8-studded Lego blocks, just the regular, like a blue Lego brick with 8 bumps on the top, and I had 6 of them, and I know you like math problems. So how many possible combinations could I make out of 6 blocks with 8 studs? How many different shapes do you think we could make? Ballpark.
About 2000.
Ooh, that's a good guess, but everybody guesses way too low because they forget there's 8 holes on the bottom of the Lego as well. So when you combine all of that, it's over 109 million different shapes you can make with just 6 Lego blocks. So that's a great example of how people miss connections with other people. When I'm doing sales training, I can use Lego as an example. If you had 6 people in a room together, how many different combinations of interactions could you have with 6 people? Well, people are a lot more complicated than Lego blocks, right? So that means there's probably billions and billions or an infinite number of ways 6 people could have a conversation together. And so that's an example of how I can use Lego in a conversation. I also built Lego creatures for all of my PowerPoint slides. So one of my presentations I call Creative Nerdery. Every slide in the presentation is a picture of a Lego that I made or that I found online that demonstrates my point. And I think it's just a fun way to make it interesting and to make it me. So nobody else has a presentation entirely made out of Lego. That's all me. They got to come to me for that.
Huh. So what's the craziest thing that's happened while doing your passion?
Oh, man, I have so many stories, Tiberius. I got fired by a famous musician called Billy Idol live on stage when I was in front of 5,000 people. So I'm on stage playing music. I'm doing my thing. I'm telling jokes. And they didn't like the song I played, and they just turned off the lights. They turned off my microphone and all of my music, and I was just standing there on stage in the dark with nothing I could do in front of over 5,000 people. It was a tough minute, but I also became bulletproof in that moment. There's nothing else that can happen for the rest of my career, really, that's going to be worse than that. But I've had fights break out when I was DJing, and we had people that were trying to dance and they bumped into each other and it got crazy. I've had, bad days and had a girlfriend break up with me or something right before I have to go on the show. And you're like, maybe we could have done that after I performed for thousands of people. That would have been great, but all those things happen and they just learn, they make you stronger. That's a great lesson learned that you can still do your show. You can still do your thing, even under difficult circumstances. And that's how you build confidence. When you learn to get through tough things, it just makes you stronger.
Well, what was the first step that every person should do if they wanted to be a game show host?
Ooh, start doing it. So this is my advice when I was on the radio and stuff too, is that they don't just randomly hand out popular game shows to people. They're not going to go find a random stranger and say, hey, do you want to host Wheel of Fortune? Pat Sajak's getting a little old. They're going to go find somebody else that is already hosting game shows. So you're doing it right now by starting a show, by being on a microphone, host a trivia night for your friends and just do it for 5 people and get good at 5 people. I say that with podcasting too. You know what the best thing about doing a podcast nobody listens to is?
What?
If you mess up, nobody's listening. Nobody notices. You don't want to start your very first podcast ever in front of 100,000 people, because if you mess something up, 100,000 people are going to see.
Yeah.
That's not very fun. But when you start slow, when you start for a small audience, you get better, you make some mistakes and you learn. And then when it comes time to be a game show host, or it comes time to get a big podcast or a TV show, then you're ready because you've made all those mistakes with smaller audiences.
Yeah. So who can you say was the person that helped drive your passion the most?
My grandma. Grandma Lynn is the one who inspired me the most. She's a super fun lady. She kind of had a boring job. She was in quality control for a Hallmark Cards, the people that do the gift cards. And then she worked for AT&T and telephones and stuff being made.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, but she was super playful. She encouraged me to just be a nerd. We played fake toy instruments at her house. We messed around on her computer and wrote stories. She had a keyboard that we made music on. We would make up stories and tell funny stories. She introduced me to different comedians and stuff. So you'll see some of these books and records and things behind me were hers, that she introduced me to funny people like Steve Martin or other people, and bought me a Dwight Schrute bobblehead for my first office, and just really inspired me to be a playful human.
Wow. So what's the best advice you've ever received, and who gave you that advice?
Ooh, my favorite quote is, don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, and then go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And that's a quote from Howard Thurman. He's a philosopher, and he didn't give that to me directly, but it's my favorite piece of advice, because I think when we try to make ourselves into stuff other people like, we end up not liking ourselves.
Yeah.
So if we do stuff that we like and we love, other people see our passion and they get attracted to that. And you know what? There's like 8 billion people on the planet now. I'm sure we can find somebody else who likes that too. Right? So be who you want to be, do what you love and what makes you excited, and then find the people who like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, what message do you want to tell children all over the world about doing the work that you do?
I think it is really that no matter what you do, have fun at it. People do more of what they like, they enjoy, and they have fun doing. They do less of stuff that's boring, that's hard, that they struggle with. And so even boring jobs, even if it's homework that you don't like, find a way to turn it into a game. Give yourself a prize for it. Compete against your friends. Find a way to keep score, and that'll make your life more interesting.
Okay. Well, on that note, let's take a quick break to pay some bills. And we are back here with Playful Human and Sales Trainer. Let's get into it. So, can you do like a game show over Zoom?
You can definitely do a game show over Zoom. I have some online tools to do that. You can just play Jackbox games and share your screen, and I've done that for my family get-togethers at Christmas and stuff, and everybody loves to, you know, log in with their phone and use the code and chime in. That's great. We do a ton of different games on Zoom. I love doing Family Feud or different types of games where you send people to different breakout rooms and they still get to work on teams.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can say, hey, we're looking for a food that might roll off your plate. What's a round food that might roll off your plate? You have 2 minutes to talk it out with your team. We're going to send you to a breakout room now. Come back with your top answers. And those are really fun because then people get into it. They get to chime and they can type it into a Google sheet or something, and we can keep track of all the scores and logins. And it's a really great time. Really cool experience to work with people all around the world too. We've done, you know, people from Japan or India and stuff on the same game show as people in the United States, and it's really fun.
Okay. Well, can you show me like a short game that we can play right now?
Ooh, I can. I have some questions right here. Let's ask you. I surveyed 100 people, and I asked them to name a place where you might try to squeeze in one more person. What do you think they said?
Bathroom.
Ooh, bathroom is interesting, but no, not on the top answers. We have a car, an elevator, a bus, a restaurant table, or a church pew. All right, this is another hard one. Let's try this. Name a cooked food that's just as good hot as it is cold.
Steak.
Ooh, there you go. Steak comes in at number 6. You did make it on the card there. Chicken is the one that's good, hot and cold. Pasta, pizza, I feel like also works in there. And somebody said carrots. I don't feel like it's as good hot.
It is actually good cooked. I'll give them that. Cooked is good.
There you go.
So, who are the right people that would want to run a game show for them?
Ooh, if I was setting up, it's really anybody that wants to have fun and do some team building or get together. So usually family reunions, people that are having a team that hasn't gotten together in a long time because of COVID, or they're just feeling like they're stressed out and they're burnout. They're running it at the end of their tank here, and they need to recharge their batteries. So if that sounds like you, playfulhumans.com, happy to write some questions for you, figure it out, or just give you tools to help you do it yourself. I can encourage you and show you some game mechanics that you can set up your own game to play for yourself.
Sweet. Well, if you could go back 10 years and tell yourself something, what would it be?
It really goes to being more of yourself and trusting your gut and your instincts. That whenever I've kind of gone off track, it's because I thought, oh, I can't really do something, or I should do something because somebody else told me to, or they told me to stop doing something that I really liked. And I think if I really trusted my gut and had the confidence to go after what I was good at, what I really loved, I would have gotten there a lot faster.
Mm-hmm. Well, what was the biggest mistake you have ever made, and how did it change you as a person?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I could come up with a few things here, but I think the big one for me is when I was on the radio and everything, I created an alter ego. And so I was Romeo when I was on the radio. Okay. And I created a lot of like fake followers on social media and stuff. So I had tens of thousands of people following me, and I kind of just deleted all of that. And there's some positive benefits of it too. When you have a fake character, again, you kind of get to play a role. It's not you. You have some distance from fans or people that you might not want to know who you are and where you live and all of that kind of stuff. But I think the mistake I kind of made was throwing all of that away and not building my personal brand. So when I decided to go do something else and be Mike Montague again, I kind of had to start over from scratch. And if I had really trusted to be myself and to go after what I am and be who I am, I could have continued that momentum into the next project. I could have built a more cohesive career over time.
Okay, so when you're not working, well, what do you do for fun?
Well, that one is a trick question for me because I play for fun all the time. So I might be hosting a game show or a trivia night or playing board games with my nieces and nephews, but I also love to move and swim. So I love to ride bikes. I love to go walk, go to the park, go swimming, anything to get outside and move, because a lot of the stuff I do is behind a screen in an office all day.
Okay, well, do you play video games? And if you do, what's your favorite one?
Ooh, I think I've already shouted it out here, but Jackbox is my favorite video game. You Don't Know Jack came out when I was a kid, about your age, and I fell in love with its silly, funny trivia games. But now they have a whole bunch of games. They have like 5 or 6 different packs of games that you can get. And I love anything that's silly and goofy, but also has some smarts to it.
Okay. Now, can you tell me that one story? You know, remember, this is a kid show, but that one story, well, that you're not supposed to tell me about. Come on, you can tell me.
That is another tough one. Let me go through my Rolodex and find one that hits that sweet spot. I mentioned the Billy Idol story earlier, and I think that's probably one that a lot of people don't feel like they should tell you, that they got fired or that they have been fired in their career. And the Billy Idol story was fun for me because I met with him and his manager. Their opening act got sick when they were on tour and they were coming to Kansas City, and the radio station had sponsored it. And they said, play the music you play on the radio. They said, don't play any Billy Idol songs because we're going to play those later. And they said, it's a rock show, so play mostly rock music. Don't play, like dance or hip hop and things like that. And I said, okay, I can do that. But I was thinking like 80s rock, like Billy Idol is retro music. And he was thinking more like classic rock, like Rolling Stones. And so I didn't ask enough questions. And being fired, especially publicly in front of a whole bunch of people, is not very fun. But it really lets you understand that it's not that big of a deal. I think as you're a kid in school, you're trained not to get Fs, not to fail, not to try things that don't work. And when you learn that you can do that and get over it, and I can get more money for the next gig, I can get hired again. I opened for another band called Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, and it was even more people. It was 12,000 people, and they loved it. They said it was a great job. I got paid more money. I had more fun, and I felt like I checked that concert venue thing off of my bucket list. But
Nice.
that story, I think, for you at your age is it's okay to fail. It's okay to mess things up. It's okay to take some risks sometimes that might not work. Sometimes you tell a joke that isn't very funny, and that's where you learn what the limits are. You learn how to get better by doing it.
Well, do you have a Facebook or website for my listeners who want to follow you?
You bet. It's playfulhumans.com is the website, and you can find me at Mike D. Montague on all of the channels, any social media channel. Look for Playful Humans or Mike Montague, and you'll find me. I'm not hiding. I'm up there on all the channels doing stuff all the time.
So, what is that one question that you think I forgot to ask you?
Ooh, ask me who my favorite guest has been on my podcast. I know that I'm already your new favorite, but ask me who my favorite is.
Well, who is your favorite guest?
I got to interview a guy named David Kay, who is a voiceover actor, and he does the voice of Megatron and Optimus Prime and the Transformers. He's done G.I. Joe characters. He was the narrator in Up, the Pixar movie, and he did all the voices on the show. So this was on Playful Humans, and he was like, Autobots assemble, and doing all the cool like Megatron voices and all of his cartoon characters and things that he voiced.
Nice. So, thank you so much, Mike, for being my special guest. Can you stick around for Math Corners?
Oh, yes. Let's do some math.
Sweet.
The Tiberius Show would like to thank one of their dedicated sponsors, Custom Designs Orlando. These guys are on Mills Avenue and do all sorts of stuff, ranging from photo ID badges, engraved signs, custom braille ADA signs, vinyl lettering to trophies and awards. The cool part about Custom Designs is they can ship products all over the United States. You can reach them at 407-898-0373 and tell them that
Tiberius
sent you.
Tiberius's favorite subject, it's Math Corners!
And now it's time for Math Corners. Thank you so much, Mike, for helping me with Math Corners. This week, we're going to do some more multi-step word problems. My dad is always good at finding new problems for me to solve. And today, we're going to talk about lemonade. Ooh, I like that. So, Albert wants to buy a BMX bike to compete in his town's extreme sports contest. He needs $120 to buy the bike. He set up a lemonade and cookie stand to raise the money. So, Albert sold lemonades for $1 per cup and cookies for $3 each. So he sold 40 cups of lemonade and 20 cookies. So how much money does Albert still need to earn? Well, first is a real world problem because we do know that kids like BMX and they are not cheap. So, let's get into it. So, to solve this issue, you first have to figure out how much he earned. So, lemonade is easy because it's $1 per cup. So, 40 cups is $40. Now I have the $3 cookies. Well, 20 times 3 is $60. So, you add those two together and we get $100. Nice! But wait, he needs $120 for the bike. So, you subtract the 100 from the 120, so you find that he still needs to earn that $20. And I bet he forgot the tax.
Ooh, yes, and that he's probably going to want some accessories, like a bike bell or horn or something.
And probably the money for the competition entry.
Ooh, downhill, yes.
Yeah. So, Mike, did you ever ride BMX when you were a kid?
I did. I bought a new bicycle. It was a little more than $120 last year, but I loved riding bikes. You do that with my brother and our two best friends all day. Yeah, if you borrow a few coins from your parents, you can maybe ride to an ice cream shop or find a soda machine outside a grocery store. That was my favorite activity.
Nice. Well, my teacher said that I would use math every day. How do you use math in your work?
I use math a lot when I'm podcasting and doing video editing. We always have to use those timestamps and find out, wait, how long was that segment we just did? And I'm constantly doing math of trying to add and subtract time codes and cut out things to see how long the show has been and where I need to make a video cut or an edit. I'm sure you can relate to that. But also in game shows, I have to keep track of scores all the time. And in Price is Right, I'm trying to figure out if somebody bid $5,000 and another person bid $4,200 and the actual retail price is $3,512. Like, who's the closest? And so it can get a little crazy with the math. But luckily, I have a producer there to help me out too, and we can use the calculator if we have to.
Well, thank you so much, Mike, for your help with Math Corners.
You bet.
And now it's time for the Heart of the Lion. As you know, we talk about the qualities of living by the Heart of the Lion, which stands for leadership, integrity, obedience, and nobility. Well, this week, we're going to talk about nobility. For me, I think nobility is remembering we are God's special possessions and acting in a noble way, showing courage and honor. The qualities of nobility are goodness, virtue, honor, generosity, and selflessness. So, I was on the street doing some interviews, and one of the people being interviewed recognized me and asked if I knew his grandson. When he told me the grandson's name, I froze, because this was a kid that had bullied me in school. He asked if I knew him, and I responded that I did, and he was okay, and I was good friends with him. I could have told his grandfather about what his grandson had done to me, but it might have gotten him in trouble, but I kept my problems to myself and did the interview like a champ. Well, my dad told me that I did a great job, and even when things got tough, I held on to my professionalism. He also said that it was a form of nobility because it was unhonorable not to reveal anything negative about his grandson. I did not think it was noble because it was hard, but at least my dad sees it. So, Mike, did you see or use nobility at all this week?
Yeah, I think I do all the time. First of all, I'm an August birthday, and so I'm a Leo. I'm a lion myself. I can relate to this a lot. And I'm also the oldest child. So I think part of being the oldest and being bigger, you can't really tell on video, but I'm 6'2", I'm over 200 pounds. I'm a very big guy. And I feel like that makes me a protector for other people. And I think looking out for other people that are smaller than you, being generous and giving them space. I can take up a lot of space with my personality, with my body, and with other things, and giving them a chance to grow and learn and fail and to protect them in that is the way I think about nobility, is creating a legacy and a safe space for other people in my kingdom here to be the best versions of themselves.
Well, of all of the Heart of the Lion virtues, which is the one that you see the most?
I think it's leadership. I teach leadership for sales training and stuff with Sandler training, but also, again, as that oldest child, and I consider myself a role model, is I want to be a good example for other people in the play that I do, and setting an example of being the leader of a game show and creating an environment and an atmosphere where people can be playful, but also as part of a team or in a family. I need to be the example for other people, and I need to lead them in a way that allows them to be able to be playful themselves.
Well, we should always try and be lion strong in everything we do, shouldn't we?
Absolutely.
And that's our show, folks. I want to thank the one, the only, the amazing Mike Montague for being on my show. It has been so much fun talking to you today. I think we learned a lot about being a game show host, and that you were never too old to learn to play. Well, do you mind giving your website again?
Sure. It's playfulhumans.com, and go play.
Okay. Also, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at The Tiberius Show, and I would like to thank WWPR 1490 AM, KINT 98, Soul Radio 24/7, Easyway TV, and all the other stations that air my show. Please be sure to visit The Tiberius Show on YouTube and hit that subscribe button. Mike, are you subscribed yet?
I am subscribed. YouTube is my channel of choice. I love watching the show there.
Sweet. Oh, and be sure to leave a comment and tell me what is your favorite way to play. Also, be sure to listen to us next week on the Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy.